Hi there everyone, Life DIY Josie here. Welcome back to my channel. Today is Thrifty Thursday when I do a throwback of one low budget idea every Thursday. Let's walk down memory lane with this compilation of DIY spring wreaths that I have made over the years. For my first DIY, I will be using this small size foam wreath form that I got at Dollar Tree, and also this roll of burlap, also from Dollar Tree. I'm going to go ahead and wrap the burlap around my wreath. I'm using this bunch of Tweedia flowers, and I'm just cutting this hard part here at the bottom and just cutting the individual stems. And then I'm going to be inserting each stem into the burlap. So I don't even need wire or any hot glue here. I'm also adding these lilac flowers, cutting them the same way, individual stems, placing them just below where I placed the white Tweedia flowers. Using burlap or some raffia like this one from Dollar Tree as well, I am going to be making a bird's nest. So I'm just rolling this piece of raffia into a tube and then connecting the ends like so. So I made it into like a cup and just hot glue at the end, and then applied some hot glue at the bottom, and then I'll be placing it right below where I place my blue flowers. I'll be adding some of these eggs that I got also from Dollar Tree. I'm just choosing the yellow and the light blue foam eggs on this wreath. And then I just hot glued the eggs inside my nest, and then I'm all done with this wreath. Here I'm just cutting the loose threads, making sure that it looks nice and clean. And voila! Just a simple, rustic farmhouse wreath. And here it is, hanging on the wall in our living room, dining room combo. Love it. You can choose any colors you like to match your color scheme. Now on to the next project. I've used the hula hoop that measures 20-inch in diameter, and that's the smallest size from the Dollar Tree. And then I'm also using 2 ropes and assorted flowers, any colors you like, but I am only using the white variety. So I'm just gonna be disconnecting this portion here, because if you notice there's a sound or noise when you're using the hula hoop, and those are made of small pebbles. So I'm just going to be removing them, and then I am going to be reconnecting the ends. I've just painted over the hula hoop, and then I am going to be covering the hula hoop with the nautical rope or the jute. But first I'm applying some hot glue where I'm starting off to keep the rope in place to prevent unraveling. So just a tip for you, just put hot glue where you think you need to reinforce. You don't have to apply hot glue everywhere or all over your hula hoop. So I have covered the side from the center of the hoop, and then I'm going to continue it with my second rope, so a total of 2 ropes. And then this is how it should look like, covering the half of the hula hoop, and then the bottom portion will be available for me to add my flowers. So I'm cutting the flowers from the stems. I'm making sure that I include the leaves because they'll make it fuller. And then I am applying hot glue to the bottom of my flowers, and then even the bottom of the leaves, because I want to keep them intact. If you want a more stable connection, use some floral wires to connect your flowers instead of using hot glue. So I used a total of 3 magnolias, 4 hydrangeas, 8 roses, and 6 queen sans lace. I have alternated them to make them more interesting, and then here I'm just fluffing out for fuller effect. And it's all done. I like how rustic it is, and so farmhouse with the rope, and very feminine as well with add-ons of the silk flowers. You can hang this on a door, wall, over the mirror, over the window, on top of the mantelpiece, and as you could see here, some signs. And you can use it for wedding decor. Now the next one, I'm using that metal wreath form as well as some decorative mesh that I have. This is the green one, and this one is more like a fantasy kind of juvenile type of wreath, or it's more for fun and also decorating maybe your teenager's room or even your child's room. And just a disclaimer here, this project is to be accomplished. It's for adults only, being FTC compliant. This video is not for children or not for anyone under the age of 13. So I'm just wrapping around my Deco mesh, doing it loosely. I don't even need tape or glue to attach them together because the mesh cling to each other. Next, I cut around a yard and a half of mesh, and then I'm going to be making a bow in this manner, kind of twisting it first and then tying a simple bow and then unraveling those ears of the bow and then kind of centering it, and then I'm going to cling it onto my wire mesh wreath on this top portion here where I made the final cut of the wreath. Now here you can reinforce it with glue because of the added weight of the bow. I have done that off camera. And then I'm going to be adding this LED fiber optic flower stem that I got also from Dollar Tree. So all these materials are from Dollar Tree. I'm going to be cutting at the bottom center here, and I'm going to be inserting that fiber optic flower. I chose the pink one. It's so cartoony. It also comes in purple, and I think it may have also come in yellow. So it's by the cashiers section of Dollar Tree, and it's available springtime. Here I'm adding hot glue to the tail so that it will not cover the flower. And this is how it looks in the day or when it's bright. And then as it gets darker at night, it becomes kind of like a night light. So it'll be good also to decorate your garden at night. Hang several of these on your fences or your porch to make it a little bit more interesting. For the next one, I'll be using this pizza pan as well as this contact paper, decorative one from Dollar Tree. I am just going to be tracing the shape of my pan to the back of my contact paper, and then I'm going to be cutting that circle. And then I'm tracing it so that I can create an indentation because of that lip there, or the border. And then I am just going to be spreading and attaching my contact paper to my pizza pan, making sure that there's no bubble. I'm also using an old card or a credit card would do to just remove the air bubbles. And then I am just pressing the border like so. And don't be too concerned or worried about the crinkle effect or the rough edges or the uneven coverage on the sides, because they will be covered with silk flowers. I'm using here a combination of white roses and pink peonies. I'm just gonna be hot gluing them to create my flower borders. So I'm just cutting each flower kind of all the way to the bottom of the flower so that it's not going to be so hard to hot glue. It'll be flatter at the back. So I'm just going to be hot gluing them and alternating the white rose with this pink peony. And I love the combination a lot. And if you notice the design, the black and white contact paper, they are peonies and roses as well. So I'm just kind of mimicking the design there. And then I'm using my burlap ribbon, and choose the one that will complement your home decor. And I just created a bow at the center, top. And then I'm also using these yellow berries, also from Dollar Tree. Just want to add a little bit more dimension to it. I really love this project a lot, to be honest. I have given this to some of my friends and loved ones, and they really like it, especially those who like Victorian style or shabby chic. Now, if you could see, this one is kind of like a deja vu on the first project, right? So this one is actually kind of like a reclip of that one on the first project or first DIY, where I'm wrapping the foam floral wreath form with the burlap. So you've seen me done this again on DIY number 1. And then I'm using it this time as a base for seashells. So a wreath doesn't have to be just flowers. You can put anything you like. And here I'm kind of doing a coastal theme using the seashells that I got also at Dollar Tree. It's amazing what things you can buy at Dollar Tree to decorate your home, so you can always decorate on a budget. So I've chosen this kind of clam shaped seashells from Dollar Tree. They also sell the other shapes, but I've chosen just to make this in the same shapes just to make it a little bit more cleaner. But again, I've seen some on Pinterest where they mix up different styles of seashells and even starfish, so you can do that as well. I'm adding the smaller shells to the inner part of the wreath, and just using my hot glue here and just hot gluing the bottom of the seashell. And then I'm also going to be covering the sides to make this wreath fuller with more shells. So it's my coastal theme or beach theme or seashell theme wreath. Again, I'm loving this. It's one of my favorites. I've actually kept this arrangement, and I don't just use it for spring, I also use it summertime. And if you want to create this all year round, you can just add bows to kind of go with the season. So if you've noticed, they come in 3 sizes: big shells, medium-sized shells, and the smaller shells. And I only use 1 bag of seashells, and I think I still have leftover shells after I was finished with this project. Now I have this burlap ribbon I also got at Dollar Tree to create my hanging loop where I'm going to be hanging on the wall. I'm just using, I just cut a small piece here to create a loop where I am going to hang it from. And then I just hot glued it to the back of my wreath. And then I created a bow. It's optional if you don't like bows or if you're not into bows, but this is just a simple bow where I connected the end to create 2 loops there, and then connected a small piece at the center to create a simple bow. And then I have this raffia in neutral color, and then to add dimension, I added this to the center of my burlap bow. And then I placed that at the center right below where I have the loop. And voila! There's my seashell coastal themed wreath. And again, you can hang this all year round if you like to. I've added this beach themed votive candle from Dollar Tree. This is an LED light, and I don't think they carry this anymore, but I added it because it is a beach themed with sand as well as small seashells, and that blue resin there looks like the ocean. The next one is a two-part DIY. I have placed the wreath on top in the middle portion of this faux wrought iron fence shutter that I'm creating using 4 11 by 14 picture frames that I also got at Dollar Tree, and then these two plastic garden fences. I'm removing the stakes or the pointed items as well as the nails and hooks, making sure that there's nothing protruding on the ends like so. And then I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same step on the other fence. Now I'm preparing my frames. I'm removing the backing as well as the glass, and I'm also removing this metal fasteners using my bullnose pliers. I'm doing this on all 4 frames. I'm painting my plastic fence with white acrylic paint. You can also use chalk paint, and the way I'm applying it is not evenly. It looks like weathered, and it looks like paint peeling off a wrought iron fence. So it doesn't have to be perfect. That's the best way to do this style. You don't have to paint it perfectly or evenly. Same thing with the picture frames. Now after they dried up, what I'm doing is I'm going to be connecting 2 at a time the picture frames. As you notice, I didn't paint this side because glue doesn't stick or adhere well on paint. So I've used E6000 and hot glue to connect the picture frames. So I've connected them horizontally 2 at a time and then connected all 4 together. And then I hot glued the fences 1 on each end like so. And then for the actual wreath, I'm going to be using Floral foam wreath and then wrapping it with the burlap ribbon. And I'm so happy that it came with the steel color that I like, and I just wrapped it around, kind of like how I did it with that other burlap covered wreath form. And then I inserted an assortment of flowers, so some peonies and in the same kind of hue. So I also have hydrangeas here. Next, I'm going to be hanging this wreath on my faux wrought iron shutters. If you notice, I left a couple of tails here, the excess from the ribbons, and then I hot glued the ends to the back of my frame, the top part, and then here I'm hot gluing one of the hanging hardware from one of the picture frames so that I have something to hold on to and hang on the wall. So I just have a simple carpenter nail and then I just hang it on the wall that way, and here it is. I hung it right above our headboard. For the next DIY, I'm going to go for glam using these 3 pieces of 3 compartment trays the silver trays that they sell at Dollar Tree. You can find them at the catering or party aisle or wedding section. And then I'm just hot gluing them from the bottom part on each side, just connecting them together. Then I flip them over after they dried up. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be using a combination of pink and white peonies. I'm picking out only the large ones to complement the size of each of the compartments. So I'm gonna use 3 white ones and 6 pink ones. The fuller the flowers, the better. So I'm just kind of trying to spread the petals also to make it more open and fuller looking. I am including the leaves, so I'm pushing the leaves all the way to the top, right below the flowers, and then that's where I'm gonna make my cut, right here, using my wire cutter. And then I'm going to be using 3 pinks on the top, and then 3 pinks at the bottom, and then 3 white ones at the center. I'm just going to hot glue each one of them to the bottom inner part of the trays. And then I'm using the teal burlap ribbons to create a hanger, kind of like what I've done with the other wreaths. I'm creating a bow by folding the center of my ribbons and then connecting it or attaching them with hot glue. I just cut a small piece to tie it at the center to create a simple bow at the top. So that's my hanging bow. So I'm just trying to add a little bit of embellishment here to give it a little bit more of a glam look by cutting a small strip of that glam bling ribbon and attaching it at the center or connecting it at the center of the bow. And then I have 4 kind of clear sticker gems, put them in 4 corners of the center compartment. This wreath is, if not my favorite, it's one of my favorites because it is different. Next, we're making this Dreamcatcher wreath using a remnant of my previous project. It's the mouth opening of this waste basket from Dollar Tree. You can also use the metal wire wreath form from Dollar Tree. Just use the smallest circle. So what I'm doing here is using my bullnose plier, I'm pinching the pointed remnants. And there are some that I'm able to remove, but to lessen the time spent, I'm just pinching them and flattening them. Then using my Dollar Tree twine, I created a loop by using double strands and then folding them in 2. And then creating this loop at the center, which I hot glued so that I keep it in place. And then I proceeded to wind my twines around to cover the metal ring. And then towards the top where the beginning meets the end, I'm going to tie the twines through the loop to reinforce it and keep it in place. This way it will not unravel. I'm using this lace ribbon that I got at Dollar Tree, and then I'm going to be creating the tails of my dream catcher. So approximately a yard to a yard and a half, I am creating this and using 2 strips of that doubled up for the lace, and then a single blue clear gauze ribbon to also alternate or place it at the center or the middle part. And then I'm going to be creating also some tails made of twine to add a little bit more rustic feel. So it's a combination of something that is feminine as well as rustic, and it's so farmhouse style. So I just inserted the 2 tails through the loop to create my knot. And then I'm just adjusting the spacing and then adding the twines. So I'm cutting the twine a little bit longer than the other ribbons, just to make sure that, you know, I kind of add a little bit of kind of layering. And here's how it should look. You could see it clearly how I have placed the 2 lace ribbons, and then there's one at the center, the blue ribbon, and then in between them I placed some twines just to add some more texture down there. So 4 loops of twines, 2 loops of lace ribbons, and 1 loop of blue ribbon. Be hot gluing this doily that I got at Dollar Tree. They come 2 in a pack, and then I'm just going to be hot gluing it to my wreath, and I am just positioning it where it's centered, and the design at the middle, the floral design of the lace, is at the center. So I'm applying hot glue all around the wreath and then connecting my lace, and then I just cut to size my lace. Then using my peonies again, you've seen me use peonies a lot in this video, but this time it's the peach colored peonies, and then I just used 3 pieces. The center one has the biggest bloom. Now for the next DIY, another hula hoop project, I'm going to be using this large hula hoop. This is bigger than the other one that I created. So this time I'm creating this without any painting involved, and I also removed the pebbles inside, and I only removed the colored tape. I'm going to be using this burlap, and again, you can buy burlap at Dollar Tree, but if you are a crafter and you use burlap a lot, I suggest buying the ones that are in bigger bulk because they're less expensive, more cost effective down the road. And I got mine from burlapfabric.com. So I'm just going to be wrapping this hula hoop with my burlap. And you've guessed it, I'm using more peonies here. I love peonies. I don't know. Raise your hands if you love peonies like I do. Real or fake, I love them. And Dollar Tree sells some of the best and the least inexpensive peonies out there. So comment down below if you're a peony lover. Anyway, I am just placing them at the bottom center. If you notice, I kind of left a little bit of the stem wires there so that it will help anchor the flowers, because I chose only the big flowers, and these are the large flowers. Actually, these are larger than the ones I used in the previous projects. Then I'm cutting several rectangular pieces of my burlaps, and then I'm creating my own burlap rose buds. Didn't want to waste this leftover wire, so I just made my own rose buds just by winding around, wrapping the top part with the burlap fabric to create my rose buds. And I'm going to be using them to fill in the gaps in between my peonies, just to make it a little bit fuller and then add texture there where the flowers are, like this one here. So I'm going to make several of them just to put them at random places and then to fill in the voids or the gaps, attaching them with hot glue. So they're adding texture as well as filling in the voids. And then here it is. I love how it turned out, and even my own DIY burlap roses and leaves turned out okay. Not too bad. And here it is on the wall, but I felt like it needed something on the top, so I created a big bow, just tying another piece of burlap, maybe a yard of burlap, and then just tying it with some of the strands from the burlap fabric, and then place the bow on top just to kind of balance the top and the bottom. For the last wreath, I am using this metal wreath form, and then also my leftover mop strings from my previous DIYs. As you know, I use the mop string handles or poles to create organizers, and I am also using the mop strings to create beautiful things like this wreath. And I'll be linking here also on the upper right hand corner the other projects I've created using the mop strings, like to decorate or organize in a bathroom. So anyway, I'm just wrapping each of the mop strings around to cover my wire wreath form. So all in all, I think I've used 52 mop strings here, and it took me about half an hour to complete the whole thing. Probably quicker if I wasn't filming myself. I had to do pauses and also check if I am in frame. Like I said, it would have been quicker. But yeah, so I'll just wrap it around. So I wound up each string 3 to 4 times and hot gluing first the beginning of the string and then at the end of the string, just to save on hot glue. And also you don't really need to hot glue the whole thing around the wreath form. And as a tip, I'm using my popsicle sticks just so I don't get burned, and I use that to press the strings so that the hot glue will not touch my fingers, or I will not touch the hot glue with my fingers. And this is the last piece, the 52nd string. And then I'm just applying hot glue to anything that I see that is loose, especially the ends, and then using again my popsicle sticks to press them like so. So this is the back of the wreath form, and then voila, I love it. Now I'm using this artificial dog tail bush that I also got at Dollar Tree. I'm just gonna be cutting the hard part at the bottom like what I've done with the other ones. I'm just cutting the stems, and then what I'm gonna do is place each stem at the back center of the lower portion of my wreath form. I'm just gonna be gluing it inside the rim of the wreath. I'm using the remaining stem to reinforce the bottom part where I connected my flowers, and here is the final wreath. I love how this one turned out. It gives it a boho or bohemian style. Love the texture, and I love the 3D effect of the flowers at the center. So I hope you enjoyed this video, everyone, and I'll see you again next week for another Thrifty Thursday. Bye!